time it is!
I'm your host, Chris, coming to you from my bunker in my humble abode here to give you all of the answers to the world's problems without doing any of the research on them. So I thank you again for joining me. Before we get started here, I wanted to mention that I am drinking, going back old school, I am drinking a Mirror Pond Pale Ale from Deschutes Brewery. I'm a pretty big fan of this. My buddy lived in Bend, is a big fan of the brewery itself, and quite honestly, it's one of the easiest local beers you can find in the store. So, since I really couldn't get my ass off the couch to go get something else, I just went and grabbed this. But quite honestly, I do love it. So, yeah, you may hear it until we get a sponsor. You may hear it come up quite often on the show. So that's Mirror Pond Pale Ale by Deschutes Brewery out of Bend, Oregon. Allegedly, according to the label, family-owned and employee-owned since 1988. So they got that going for them. All right, so what do we got going on? Oh, one thing I wanted to mention. People have been asking me where the other Chris has been, and quite honestly, I'm not exactly sure. A couple weeks ago, he was going down to Portland, not to protest or anything like that. Actually, he saw that rates were cheap for hotels, so he was just gonna go check it out. And I hear he was potentially gonna buy a jet ski. I don't know why you have to go all the way to Portland to buy a jet ski, but the riots broke out. I'm not sure which of the side he would have been on during the riots if he was involved. I know his hotel was right downtown, staying next to, somewhat close to the Church of Scientology building. So I don't know how close that is to the riots or anything like that. But yeah, so he's either still involved with the riots, or arrested or injured, or found a perfect time to, disappear and, start his life over. So if that's the case, best of luck to you, bud. If not, be safe with all that stuff. I wanted to mention a couple things here real quick before we get started. Obviously, the U.S. Open was this weekend. DeChambeau won. And a gentleman by the name, real quick, I was talking to a guy I know, and he mentioned he saw a guy six-putt on the 18th green and then withdraw, walking off, taking his ball and going home. And, he's not a golf fan, so it's hard to fault him for this. However, he said he thought it was Tiger Woods. Fair enough. However, it turned out to be Danny Lee, an Asian American gentleman, probably, I think, top 30 of the world, if not top 50. And so if he's listening to this, which I'm sure he probably will, I gotta tell I'm very disappointed. I just because Tiger Woods is part Asian doesn't mean that he looks like all the other ones. That is a horrible, horrible stereotype, and quite frankly, one I will not tolerate. So if you have those sort of views, your listenership is not welcome here. I just thought it was funny that he thought Tiger Woods, and it happened to be Danny Lee. It could have been anybody. But yeah, dude, six putts and walks off the green, taking his ball and going home. That was a nice touch. But Bryson DeChambeau winning by 6 shots over Matthew Wolff. That was a pretty interesting Sunday. I think it was the 12th hole. I could be wrong. I was half asleep before it. Not because it was boring. I had shit to do in the morning. Took a nap. All right. If I'm up before noon, I'm worthless. So had to throw in that nap in there. but I think it was the 12th hole where Shambo hits one just down the right side, lands in the rough, bounces straight left back into the fairway. Lucky break he gets. Wolf stands up there and hits one basically on the same line, lands in what I could only assume from the TV angle was within 4.5 inches. And I mean, if anyone knows 4.5 inches, within 4.5 inches of his Shambles ball, and it just plugs in the middle of the rough. When I saw that, I mean, I think it was still a one shot DeChambeau lead at the time, or one or two. Once I saw that, I knew it wasn't going to be Wolf's day. It's just one of those things. But no, I honestly enjoy it. Wingfoot's fantastic course for major golf. It's just a blast watching it, and it is something to behold. And I read an argument. I think it was Friday that came out, and they're talking about, how the new equipment and how the new golfer has tamed Wingfoot or has tamed the U.S. Open because, it's so much easier now to do all this. There was only one person under par. Shambo was at 6 under. Matthew Wolff was at even par. If this jagoff really thought that was the case, maybe he would have waited until the fucking tournament was over and he could see that that's clearly not the case. The course architects, the people who set up the courses, are gonna have to adjust with the new equipment, and it looks like they're doing a pretty good job. You're gonna have to not necessarily, I don't think, lengthen the courses. I don't think you're gonna have to do that. I think you tighten them up and you make off-target shots that much worse. I mean, having knee-high rough, is going to do that. I'm not going to go into too much, golf talk. You guys are here to, crazy conspiracies and me to get drunk and go off on whatever anti-woman thing I have going on or whatever. So I just want to talk about it. I love seeing Sergio Garcia miss the cut. Basically almost last place, which was nice. I mean, it couldn't have happened to a douchier guy. Tiger Woods missing the cut, that sucks, but, fucker's over 40. What are you going to do? Anyway, I mean, that's really all I had on the U.S. Open. It was a great tournament, but it really came down to two guys at the end, and, one of them outplayed the other. It's just pretty simple as that. Checking my email, however, after I watched that, I had three different emails from different, they call themselves podcast channels or what have you. And they all had the same message coming to me. And it was basically, with how many listeners you have and how well you're resonating with your audience and things like that, we think it would be a great, idea for you to pay here and then get paid to... I mean, come on, guys. If you're going to be a scammer, at least look into who you're trying to scam. You're not convincing me that you're all into my content and my listenership and all that nonsense when I'm... At the time, I'm at 400 listeners or 400 streams of all time. I mean, come on, man. I mean, if you're going to try that scam, grab another beer. If you're going to try that scam, you got to at least personalize it, guys. I mean, come on. I mean, I may have been born at night, but I'm not a complete moron. You're going to have to try a little bit. I could see myself falling for a scam. I really could. And, that's going out to you guys, but you got to do a better job. You got to really sell me on it. Tell me I'm interesting, I mean, make me feel like the ugly girl at the dance, I mean, tell me I'm pretty, I'll go to the dance with you. You just got to make me believe it. So, any potential scammers out there, heed this as your warning. I mean, you're gonna have to try a bit bit harder to get me there. But I'm willing to be wooed by any scammer. That being said, a lot of what's going on in the news here? Oh, there's more shit talked about the postal service and mail-in ballots and all that, and they're trying to I don't know, they blame the post office or for voter fraud or and the post office. And there's the big argument, there's like, let's, get rid of the post office. It doesn't make money. And then there's the opposite thing. It's a service, it's provided to the people. That's fair. I'll listen to that to a certain extent. Being a libertarian I am, I don't necessarily, I don't know. It's hard for me to justify any government's entity or service that costs that much money when there's other services doing it just as well or arguably better with just as much infrastructure that could do the same thing. I don't necessarily think, I think the post office needs to readjust their business model, readjust how they handle things, because again, there's two other companies that are, quite honestly, doing it better and could probably do it cheaper. That's including regular mail. Then you're doing it. So figure out what you're doing. I don't mind it going away or keeping it, or I really don't mind either way. I don't get enough mail for it to matter. But they talk about mail-in ballots, and that's kind of been this big thing, and how they're worried about the voter fraud because you can't have a fake ID and walk into a polling place, and there's going to be fraud no matter what the fuck you do. It really doesn't matter because no matter how much you defraud an election, it's already been fucking decided. So let's stop pretending like it goddamn matters. And if you don't think the election has already been predetermined by other things, look at who the Democratic voters and people liked, and look who they have as a candidate. The fact that Biden is your candidate when there were so many other people that were resonating more with Democratic voters and even the moderate Democratic voters that you're trying to get, and you get Joe Biden, he's not taking any Trump votes away. He's not convincing the people that were on the fence who said, fuck it, I'm voting for Trump, fuck Hillary, you're voting for the male version of Hillary. And it's just, I don't know. Anyways, voting fraud, it's a, big thing. But here's my problem with mail-in ballots. And the state of Washington has been using them, I want to say at least 10 years. I know I haven't had to go to vote in a long time. So here's my problem with mail-in votes. It shouldn't be that easy for you to be involved in America, if that makes sense. I'm watching the Giants-Rockies game right now because that was the closest one that's on. It shouldn't be that easy. If you want to be involved in the electoral process, you should have to make a little bit of effort. All right? Now, I'm not saying you have to. All I'm really saying here is if you want to vote from home, that's fine. I don't care if you have a reason, medical issue, if you have no reason, if you just like waiting for your ballot to come in the mailbox. I don't care, but you should have to at least check a box and say, hey, yes, or write your name, sign your name or something and say, hey, yeah, I would like my ballot. I would like my ballot in the mail. That would be nice. And then you get it there. And if you don't do that, you still have to go to the fucking polling place. At least make some fucking effort to try to show you give a fuck. But the fact that I can lay on my couch for 3 fucking months, not move, and just sit in my own piss and filth, and then have the same get the same ballot that the guy next door who went to work and shit like that had to get. That doesn't sit horribly well with me. And it's just the fact that you should have to, if you're never going to get people to, study the issues and vote based on that. You're going to get people voting based on commercials and based on party lines. You're always going to get that. That's fine. It's which celebrity has the best, which business leader has the best commercial for this proposition, or you're always going to have that. But at least make sure they're alive. Just, if you have to sign something or go to a polling place or go to the fucking, library's going to be gone soon anyway. Go to the courthouse or something like that and just get in line and fucking sign something. Go to the post office. Give them another fucking thing to do. Make it so you actually have to be involved in the process. The only thing that bugs me about mail-in ballots is that the places that want to do it want to make it automatic. That's it. That's the only problem I have. I don't think it should be automatic. I think you should have to make some sort of effort to vote, whether it's going to a polling place, whether it's filling something out. Yes, it's everyone's right. I'm not saying it's not. But you have to do something with it. And so I could talk till I'm blue in the tits about what's going to happen with mail-in ballots, if everyone goes to mail-in ballots, or if we should line up outside the local church or community center to cast your vote. I mean, I don't care too much about how it's done. The problem is I'm over here on the east side of Washington State, and the electorate is basically run by the west side of the state, just because of how big the population discrepancy is. Now, that may cloud some of my judgment, because I know state elections, I pretty much know how they're going to go. I mean, for fuck's sakes, we have possibly the most ridiculous goddamn governor in the 50 states. Pretty close. Now that what's his face is gone. Who's that guy from Alabama? Anyway, we have probably the I would say worst. I mean, he basically looks at a failing state like California, and his policy is to do whatever California was doing 2 months earlier. So that's his plan. And I talked yesterday about how, the people who are rich and can afford to get the fuck out of California are getting the fuck out of California. So what should we do? Let's run it just like that. Anyway, the mail-in ballot, I'm fucking going off on a ramble, but the mail-in ballot thing, I probably don't see the fraud or the shit like that that's gonna happen with it. Just for the simple fact that with the state elections, it's hard to fucking tell, just because of that. So, where I was going with it, Inslee is there was just the primary, and Christ, he fucking ran away with it still. And so obviously, I didn't vote for Inslee. I didn't vote for the other Republican who won it in the primary, but it just, the boat race that he put on everybody just kind of reaffirmed to me that hey, state elections, my vote doesn't really count. So that's why I probably don't see the downside of mail-in ballots, because my vote doesn't count anyway. So you can only fraud a fixed race so much. You can only stack the Washington Generals roster so much. The Globetrotters are still going to win. So, but I mean, I think you should have to do some sort of fucking effort to be a part of our electoral system. I mean, it's an electoral college for fuck's sakes, not an electoral kindergarten. You have to actually apply to get into college. Yeah, not my best metaphor, but I'll keep it going. So I was watching. Yeah, I got, like I said, the baseball game going on in the background. I'm jumping all over the place. It's a fucking mess tonight. The last week I was watching the football game while this was going. I heard from some people that liked my Monday Night Football commentary every 7 minutes, saying what I saw. But saying what I saw, I didn't record Monday night because, quite honestly, I golfed like shit and felt like a whiny cunt. So, got to watch the baseball game because Oh, you know what? That's another thing. The hockey game was on last night. I came home from golf, watched the hockey game, and watched Tampa Bay win, and it's at 2-1. So we'll see how it goes. I really don't have a horse in the fight. I think I like Dallas more than Tampa Bay. I've always kind of liked Mike Modano and Dallas guy, what have you. So maybe going forward, I'll do this while, because it's abundantly clear to me like something has to be going on in the background. I can't focus on one thing. See, like even now I'm sitting here, I'm watching a baseball game I don't really give two shits about, and it's not doing what football was able to do for me. So maybe I'll do it maybe I'll record during Monday Night Football games, and regardless of how I'm feeling about football, well, if the NHL decides, because shit, we still might see game 7 on that Monday. I don't know. Well, I mean, hockey game's always over before the football game's over, so that won't be a problem. Maybe I'll do that from now on and kind of give my my slight commentary at the same time. But yeah, I mean, this baseball game's not holding my attention enough to keep me from rambling and going off topic. But it seemed football was able to do that, so maybe I will. I'm getting my ass kicked at fantasy, so I mean, I already talked about how U.S. Open's coming up. We have playoff hockey. We have pennant race baseball. How I'm not able to get into football that much. The fact that I'm getting boat raced in fantasy football doesn't help. The fact that San Francisco lost almost as many people last Sunday as they did in the 80s when the virus was going around, that doesn't help anything. I mean, Christ, D Ford, Bosa, Garoppolo. I mean, it is. I was talking. This is probably the NFC West is probably the deepest division, and you lose to Arizona, and I thought that this was the only division where that would matter this early, losing to a division opponent, and now, I mean, the Seahawks look. I begrudgingly say they look good. Arizona looks pretty good. Fuck, the Rams look good. I see if all these injuries stack up and they last too long, I could see the Niners unfortunately finishing in last place in the NFC West. And I mean, like with a fucking 7-9 record or some shit like that. So, I don't know. They play the Giants. The Giants aren't supposed to be that good, but you lose that many. I mean, Sherman's out. You lose that many people on defense, and you got the Barkley. I don't know why I was going to call him. Oh, because he's from Penn State. You have Barkley who's going to be there, so who knows what he could do. He hasn't, from what I've seen, and I didn't check out this Sunday much either, but from what I've seen, he hasn't been, the world beater that he was. I don't know, maybe that ridiculous earrings weighing him down. I don't know. And I'm not one of these, I might sound like an old guy here or there, with the, ridiculous earring and, these people and those people or whatever. You know what? Fuck off. I am basically a get off my lawn guy. 30 years before I should be. And but it's only with shit like that. Like, I don't care if kids, play in my yard. I don't care like that. But I mean, Christ, man, I don't mind you wearing an earring. Just don't be a tool about it. I don't know. That was a ridiculous point, and I don't even agree with it. So, moving on. Yeah, I don't like San Francisco's chances, and I really don't like my chances in fantasy football. So, by the time hockey's over and I really start doing this during Monday Night Football, I mean, it might run the same. Might run the same risk of not giving a shit and having what I have going on in my background not do its job. So it's really gonna be it's tough year for me. The Charlos are fighting this weekend, but I might have to go to a fucking birthday. Jesus Christ! The more I talk, the more I fucking remind myself of how just god awful sports are being to me in the last month. The Charlos are fighting, but I might have to go to a goddamn birthday party, so I'll miss that. At least I'm not hanging onto the seat waiting for every free game of the week MLB game on YouTube, having to watch the Reds in Minnesota this weekend. So at least I got that going for me. So something that struck me, I was last election when when basically everyone hated the Clinton and Trump as far as the candidates. I remember that Gary Johnson, who was most people who are listening to this know, but I'm going to talk. Like, maybe there's some new listeners who are looking for my point of view on all this. But Gary Johnson was the Libertarian candidate, and they put him on all sorts of debates. They got him on TV so much. They were just trying to get him over somehow. And the one thing I remember is during a town hall, they asked Gary Johnson something about police brutality and the protests and all the things like that. I forget what his answer was, but it was very, down the whatever center, who knows what I'm going to do nonsense. But I find it funny that the last big protest we had and the last time this was really talked about was 2016. All of a sudden, we're looking at 2020, the next election cycle, and all the Black Lives Matter, all the protests, all the All Lives Matter, all the MAGA, all that shit's coming up again. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say who's behind it, and I'm not going to say that cops don't necessarily, kill people that they shouldn't, or overreach their power. I think defunding them's a goddamn. That's a great fucking. That's a little defund the police. Okay, the real issue is how easy it is to become a police officer in this country. I shouldn't be able to, just because I could run 2 miles and I could show up on time to someplace for 5 months, I should not be able to be a police officer. You look at other countries, 2 years, 1 year, but yeah, granted, you're not a doctor or anything, but Christ, it takes longer to get licensed to cut hair than it does to have a license to be able to shoot people and get away with it in a certain level, or be the arbiter of justice on the streets. You need more training to cut hair in this fucking country than to do that. That's ridiculous. That's where the problem with the police comes in. It's not, over. Well, it is over policing, but it's the fact that you can roll out of bed and in 6 months have a gun for 8 to 12 hours a day. Anyway, I don't know who's behind it. It's definitely not Antifa. It's definitely not Proud Boys. It's definitely higher up than that. Who's behind this, in my opinion. But unfortunately, for the family of Breonna Taylor and for the family of George Floyd, I really don't want to be thinking this. And I really hate having this come through my mind, but I think maybe just victims of the political climate. I think just victims of somebody wanting something to protest and have going on during an election cycle. Have an easy debate. Here's an idea. Let's look at who's in charge of the debates. What media outlets stand to gain the most by having good debates go on? And I'm not talking about, NBC for this one and Fox for this one. I'm talking about overall umbrella. Who benefits from having a lot of eyes on the debate? Okay, here's what I'm thinking, and this is all just coming to me right now. I think I got this. And I gotta remember I can like move the arm and shit like that so I can adjust myself. And anyway, I just came up with this right now. So again, no research whatsoever. And again, it's easier to come up with these conspiracies because of how removed I am from all this. I know a couple people who are police officers. I know a couple people who are criminals. That's about my extent of it. I've gone on road trips with both. What we look at here is what I want to see. Here's my opinion. I just came up with this. Behind the policing, behind all those things that are coming up with the election cycles and things like that. Yeah, because when it first came up was 2016 during that election cycle. So what we need to look at is who advertises the most on the presidential debates. What commercials are coming up more often than not? That is where I think we need to start looking. If we're trying to find a deeper meaning to all this, I think that's it. I think you look at the companies who are advertising during the presidential debates, and that's who, stick with me, that's who is behind, maybe not behind, probably not behind, the actions that happen and the things that happen, but quite possibly, behind who, how quickly these things spread, how, setting out the narrative that both sides are seeing. You could have one guy, I can go, if the right people listen to me, I could say one thing to somebody and one thing to another media outlet and have it spread. Oh, the game's already over. Giants got to put the wood to Colorado. Well, from the seventh inning on, from what I was able to see. But if you get the right person listening, you tell one person, say, hey, that grass is green. You tell the other person, hey, that grass is red. You can get the entire country to fight over it. So the reason this has gotten the way it has is because whoever is doing the most advertising during the presidential debates, I'm going to have to keep an eye on it, is wanting more and more controversy to get more and more eyes on it. I like that because if you look at the last debate, it was, two hateable candidates. You look at this debate, you look at this election cycle, two hateable candidates. So what you have going on is somebody saying, hey, we might not get the viewership that we could when, it's a real debate, when it's a real, so to pump it up, we need to pump up these protest stories and these BLM stories and these shootings by cops and shootings by civilians and shooting unarmed civilians and shooting cops in the back and throwing Malta. We need to up all that so more people tune into debates. And this is just my opinion, and I have absolutely no research for this, but it seems like something, fucking allergies. It seems like something very plausible, and I've came up with dumber conspiracies, so I'm gonna have to take a look at that. But I just the coincidence is too glaring for what I'm seeing. I did see a note. I saw a big sign in someone's yard driving home today. Coming back from the pawn shop, going to do my bi-monthly. Let's see what video games are for $5 laying around, and I saw a sign that all it said in the yard was "Vote climate." Quote, "Vote climate." First of all, never seen climate on my ballot. Second of all, I don't think we need to vote for it. I think it's there. I think the climate's there. You know what? I thought that was going to be a lot fucking funnier when I first thought of it. Moving on, one of the biggest things I think I would want a candidate to say, and I've come up with this idea, and I've evolved it over the years. I've tweaked it here, tweaked it there, gave it different names, things like that. And no one's ever going to be able to say this, and it's unfortunate. But here's an opinion I have. There comes a point in almost every male child's life, somewhere between the age of like 13 or 16, where he starts walking around a little too big for his britches, where he starts, thinking he's, the big tough guy. He can run whatever. There comes a time when that happens, and really, the way that testosterone's building, the way that the male brain works, what you really need is just someone to put him in his place. That's where I say, what you do is, say, once you have a male child enter elementary school, you get from the government, basically, like just a note or a waiver that says, hey, if, here you go. And then when your kid starts getting like that, the first time he calls, he threatens to hit his mom, or calls his mom a cunt, or, pushes his dad, the dad could just take him outside and just clean his fucking clock. Just remind him where he stands. All right? I'm not talking child abuse here. All right? I'm not talking about coming home, having a shitty day at work, and just kicking the shit out of him around and up and down the stairs and things like that. I'm talking about a kid punching the window out of the car because he doesn't want to stay home on a Friday night or some shit like that. I'm talking about, and then what you do is, you take the kid to the doctor or what have you or whatever. Then you go to court. You present the judge your waiver. This is why, I came up with the name waiver beating. So you give your kid the waiver beating. You present the judge the waiver. You explain to the judge what happened, and the judge either denies it or accepts it. So, oh wow, he called his mom a cunt and tried to push her down the stairs, and you took him out back, and you reminded him he's still a child. Okay, yeah, maybe not good job, but all right, you're free to go, sir. Or, oh, wow, he forgot to take the garbage out, and you went and you beat the living fuck out of him. All right, sir, you're going to have to go to jail. You do that, I think we're going to have a lot less, douche nozzles running around at the age of 20 or so. Just because, they know what it's like to, I don't know. There just seems to be a lot of, I think one of the reasons I'm a disrespectful douche nozzle is because I didn't get that one beatdown in my life. I've gotten in fights here and there, but I've never really gotten my ass kicked. I've never really kicked someone else's ass. I've just kind of been in fights here and there. I think it would have been a lot better. I would think I would have been a lot better off if my dad, when I turned 15, when it was a real, cunt bag, or 14, or whenever I was really going through all that shit. If my dad just took me out back and just kind of put the screws to me, and then, next day, we go to court, clear up everything. Now, I understand that not every child will necessarily need that. Not every boy will need that. So if when the child turns 18, if you've never cashed in your waiver, I don't get, some sort of tax credit. What do you turn that in? And sometimes maybe one isn't good enough for a kid. So at 14, you've already cashed in your waiver for little Johnny, and he just is still going. He's, still trying to push his sister down the stairs, and still yelling at his mom, and still, I think you should be able to petition the court for an additional waiver. Go in front of the judge, you give your evidence, whatever evidence that may have to be, or whatever. I'm I'm not saying what it should be. I'm not saying how what the evidence has to be, what how strong the evidence has to be, how much of it there should be. I'm not saying any of that. Who the fuck am I to say any of that, right? I'm just a dumb drunk asshole with a couple of ideas that I decided to spout off to everybody because I was tired of them beating in my own head. But yeah, I mean, you could present more evidence, and the judge could say, okay, yes, you definitely need another waiver, sir. Here you go. And if you use it, you can use it between this day and this day. And then yeah, when if you have to go, you go to the doctor the next day, or the next Monday afterwards, and wow, this kid had quite the had an quite the beating. Like, yes, he did, doctor. As you could see from my waiver here, he needed that. He called his mom a cunt and then slapped his younger sister, and so obviously he needed that. So here's my waiver. I have my court hearing tomorrow, and hey, yeah, what have you. And again, obviously, it's not going to be. This isn't a perfect solution, because obviously you're going to have to work out some of the kinks, because when it first starts, there's going to be people who both don't are the optimist in me. There's going to be people that decide not to use it just for the simple fact, like, they're like, oh, you know what, he may be doing that, but he's still a good boy, so I don't know if this is really worth it, and never uses it. And then B, there's going to be that group of people who just decide to overuse it, or takes it in because he didn't wash the car right, and try to cash in the waiver, and they're going to be put in jail for which they should be. And it's going to take a while to get the kinks worked out. We're not necessarily an intelligent society, so to speak, but it's going to take a while to figure out, but I think it would benefit. Yeah, and then now the more I'm thinking about it, yes, it's going to benefit society. Yes, I've not heard a better idea when it comes to rearing children to be respectful individuals. When they hit adulthood, I haven't heard a better one. I mean, you could try raising your kids, but it's I mean, with again, I'm going to sound like an old fuck with social media these days and the internet. There's a lot more influence. The world has a lot more influence than the parents do nowadays. Whereas you go back to the 90s, 80s, or something along those, the parents had more influence than the world. So you need this is another way to give some of that power back to the parents. Yeah, it's not the greatest idea, and yeah, even saying it a little bit, it sits weird in my stomach just even saying that. Because then you start thinking, well, fuck, I mean, it's gonna have to be a social experiment, and you're experimenting on children. I mean, we do it with vaccines, but just the fact that you're gonna use actual abuse as a as a as a social experiment. Yeah, it doesn't make me feel good either. All right. So while you're sitting here listening to this, and while your stomach's kind of like, I don't know if I like this, just know, just know, I feel exactly the same. However, I think it's better off in the long run. If there was some sort of system in place where that happens, or maybe it's not even the parent. Maybe take them to a boxing gym or something like that. Present the boxing gym your waiver. Say, hey, have at it. Something like that, or it's like a karate dojo or I don't know, a wrestling factory or whatever they have out there. You present that, and you try to. I mean, that might be better than putting it in the parents' hands too. So I don't know. And then you run into the problem is, hey, what about, kids without fathers? And I don't know. I mean, they're already kind of behind the eight ball. Maybe they should be able to yell at their teacher a little bit. I don't know. And then, what do you do with the daughters? How do you figure it out with them? And then, I don't know about that. But, the when it comes to that sort of stuff, women have it much easier. It's no, I'm not going to sit here and say that a teen girl's life is easier than a male's or whatever. But what I'm saying is, you know, raising daughters is a pain in the ass. Like I'd say like end of elementary school. And again, all my personal opinion. I'm speaking from no facts or experience. Whereas boys tend to be a little bit more douche nozzles towards towards the high school years. So I don't know where I'm going with this. Basically, I don't. What I'm trying to say is, as you can see, a lot of my ideas, I just are great ideas for the first two sentences, and then I start thinking about them more, and I just run myself into a circle. And I still believe in my initial premise, but I'm trying to figure out how to. I know the arguments that are going to come out, and I still kind of halfway believe in the arguments that come out. So, how am I going to square this in my own head to make sure that what I know will help society can be implemented right? It's tough, but I definitely think that there is something to be said for that. There is something that needs to happen there, and I don't know, you know, and I just came up with the fact that we let a professional, an accredited, ooh, there it is, an accredited combat sport practitioner, accredited combat sport practitioner to carry out these waiver beatings. So that way, yeah, that way there's another level. So the parent goes to this practitioner and says, "Hey, here's what's going on. Here's this," and then you have that guy saying, "I don't know if that's quite good enough for it," and sends him on his way. Or okay, hey, yeah, I agree, definitely, this is definitely what we're here for, and then it goes to the court. Yeah, I mean that's a better idea. And I mean, we got to figure, what are you gonna do about girls? I don't know. I think women need to figure themselves out first before we start worrying about what the fuck we're gonna do with them, raising them and shit like that. It's I don't know. Broads annoy me. It's just the simple fact that I don't know. You see. I mean, this goes back to a point that I'm going to, you're gonna hear this and say you're beating a dead horse. But the way I look at it, it's good practice for when you come across a live one. It's a lot of women, tend to be on the more liberal side because that side tends to vote for, more reproductive rights or the abortion and women's rights and equal pay and all that stuff. Which I agree. There should be more access to it and what have you. I don't necessarily think throwing another $10 billion into a government agency is going to do it, but it definitely should be there. So they're all voting that way, which is also the way that's trying to protect the environment. So what you're doing is you're trying to protect the environment to produce more polluters. Doesn't really stand jive with me, but whatever. I'm going to leave it at that because if I keep doing this the way, the way I've promised to do it, there's going to be a lot more of that shit coming up and a lot more of that topic coming, and you don't want to hear about it again. So anyway, broads are annoying. There should be some sort of waiver beating available for parents of male teens. You bring up the fact that hey, if there's not a dad around, maybe the mom should get it. I could probably count on one hand the amount of women I've ever met that in adulthood could beat up an average 60-year-old boy. So before we even go down that road, well, women should be able to do it too if they want to. No, they shouldn't. Here's why: because they can't. They can't. I'm sorry. That's why there's women's divisions in fighting. That's why there's women's sports, because you can't compete on the same level. It's just one of those things. And I'm sorry I have to say it. I'm sorry, ladies, that I have to be the one to tell you this. If any of you are still listening, or if any of you even do listen, I'm sorry I have to tell you this, but not a lot of you could beat up a 15-year-old boy. So that's why you don't get it. And anyway, if anything really comes out of this episode, what I want to happen is I don't mind mail-in voting. Don't mind it one bit. What I do mind is the fact that it's automatic. So if I could get any elected official, I don't care if you're the fucking, I don't know, the city auditor or whatever. That's another thing. The city auditor in Spokane has been the same person for like 25 fucking years. And I wonder if, and I'm going to have to look into what the city auditor does, because I wonder if something's going on there. I don't know. But I got a lot of this hour has basically just been me spouting off shit that I'm going to have to research and making you fuckers listen to it. So I apologize for that. But, I'm sure it was somewhat entertaining. I hope. So going back to what I'm drinking here, we're looking at the Mirror Pond Pale Ale from Deschutes Brewery out of Bend, Oregon. Going forward, my hope is to maybe drag my fat ass out of the house and, actually go into one of these local breweries and, speak to the brewer and actually get something real. But, again, like I started the show before, you really want, if you want specifics like that, fuck you, pay me. That's what I say in the immortal words of Henry Hill. So what have we got? These police protests, my opinion, are just, they start because of, they're starting because of companies who advertise during presidential debates. They want more topics to get more people watching. Mail-in ballots, scammers. Again, I'm here for you guys. I'm dumb. I'm here. I'm willing to believe some horseshit that's blown up my asshole. I'm willing to believe it. But you gotta do a little work for me. Meet me halfway, all right? And I went into golf and football and I don't know. The NHL's at 1-1. That's what I'm focused on right now, just because Niners are ugly. Neither the baseball teams I support have any sort of chance of anything. So I don't know. Well, I mean, one thing I forgot to bring up is, it's officially the end of the Aussie Rules regular season. And Collingwood, qualified for 8th place. They played Port Adelaide, who I believe is the number one team going forward or going into the playoffs. And it looked like they got handled pretty well. So they might be facing them again. I don't know how the playoffs fucking work, but might be facing them again. So it's gonna be a tough, could be a tough battle if, I don't know if it's series. I don't know if it's games. I don't know if it's a fucking double elimination. I don't know. But, playoff start. Let's talk about the U.S. Open. Waiver beating the vote. I apologize for that, 45 seconds of the vote climate part. It was just, I thought I had a good joke. The more I talked about it, the more I said it, I just realized how god awful dumb I was being, and so I bailed out of it for you guys. But I'm sorry for that 45 seconds. Anyway, that's coming to the end of our time. If you have any beer recommendations, again, don't be afraid to hit me up on Instagram or Twitter, at C²hour, all spelled out. If any ideas, any topics you think that would kind of blow my skirt up or what have you, it just feel free to reach out. Anything you want to hear me talk about, if you want to hear what a batshit 30-year-old white gentleman has to say about something you're thinking about, just go ahead and hit me up there and let me know, and I'll see about getting to it. But if that is all, I appreciate you guys for listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, rate, review, whatever the site you're watching this on has. And I will see you next week.